Hello everyone, welcome back. This is Pras from the FPL Wire and this is my Gameweek 19 team selection. We have had a very hectic period, lots of games. I hope you celebrated, whether you celebrate Christmas or not, but the holiday period with your family, and those who celebrate, Merry Christmas to you guys. Boxing Day was fun, although we didn't see as many games, like especially last night, the expectation of João Pedro, Bumo, the Arsenal guys didn't really pan out, but still an interesting week. And a short turnaround. So I'm doing this on a Saturday night UK time, so Saturday evening, and the deadline is tomorrow. So let me keep this short, hopefully. Although I have some stuff planned for you guys, so let's see how long this takes. But I'll keep the week short. I got a red arrow, but a very small red arrow. Basically, thank you to Mr. Bruno Fernandes for getting a red card. And honestly, when I was talking about in the pod that you get this unnecessary slot of variance, which is basically everybody had Saka, right? So now people diverge. Not that any other pick did well, apart from maybe Gordon. Most people's Saka replacement didn't do much. But then even within the not much, for example, he was outscored by Odegaard by 5 points. He didn't deserve to be outscored by Odegaard by 5 points. Or somebody like Martinelli also 5 points. So it is what it is. Spoiler alert, he's not going to leave my team. It's not because I think he's the best pick out of all of them, because I've made my choice and I don't want to spend further transfers in a spot where I don't think there is a clear standout option. And there is enough money floating around in the bank because Saka to Bruno released a lot of money that I can get the same players that I still want to target in other slots. So I will talk about all of that. But in terms of the week, 66 points, I think that was still a good week. Double Arsenal defense coming through. I think Trent was disappointing. He had the game. This was the game that you wanted to target, the Leicester home game. But, he did threaten, but not close to what you would expect or want from a 7 million defender. So disappointing with him. I will, in this show, have a helicopter view of what is coming up. And helicopter view is going to be back now because now we're coming into the season of doubles and blanks. So I'll be talking you through my thinking on where things are going to fall and what I'll be doing in those game weeks. And because that is going to shape a lot of my decision making going forward. Not fixated completely on blanks and doubles, but it shapes your decision making on 50-50 decisions. So Trent is not going anywhere, and I say that because there's going to be likely double for Liverpool in either game week 24 or 25. We will find out. But he will be a buy soon, right? So he's not going anywhere as well. Rico Lewis disappointed, home to Everton. I was hopeful that at least this game everybody keeps a clean sheet against Everton except Man City. So disappointed. Enzo was actually very good. Was pleased with what I saw. Just because funds are now not tight anymore, I don't think I need two cheap midfielders. So I might be saying bye to Enzo, maybe. But I don't think he's a bad pick at all. He's a decent, for 5.1 million, he was very, very good. I saw the corners, I saw some of the, the open play stuff he did. Not bad at all. And then obviously Palmer with that wonderful goal, Salah with the goal. Going forward, I think you can just say no to Palmer and Salah as points, right? Unless you're captaining the differential. Whichever week you're captaining Salah and vice-captaining Palmer, just say thank you very much. You two are in my team, but you're not in my team because they will not get you any gains. Even more so now when people don't have Haaland as much and definitely people don't have Saka. So Cunha scores from a corner, scores an assist against my team, gets my player sent off. So I don't know, man. I'm happy and mad at him at the same time. But the long story short, he's going to stay in my team till he gets banned because he's in the form of his life. He gets one return, 3 bonus, and he's playing a Spurs team that have no centre-backs. Isak continues to do really well, but again, I think most people now owns Isak, even more so because the Saka funds have been redistributed. And then João Pedro, not many people are happy with him. Again, I'm sorry to say he's not going to leave my team. He's very cheap. There's no standout pick, even within a million of him. That is a clear, okay, I'm going to sell him for him. I'm not going to redistribute the funds to the extent that I want to take João Pedro up to a Mateta. I don't have the same conviction on Mateta or anybody else. So for me, he's a nice, cheap pick. You don't have to play him every week, but he doesn't leave my team. So 66 points total. And that, as I said, I was at 13.7K. Now it's at 14.3K. So a middling week, which is absolutely fine, especially when you consider you have a third premium midfielder red carded. So as I said, a little bit of a helicopter view before I get into my team, because all of this is going to be important now in our decision making more and more. So we are now basically entering game week, this game week 19, and then game week 20, even though it's basically the next column, there's actually a week's gap. So ideally that midweek should actually be empty. So the way it's been scheduled is basically a lot of teams will play Sunday, Monday. Then you have New Year's Eve, so there's no games on New Year's Eve because of policing and other things. And then Arsenal play that other game on Wednesday, which basically means every single team is going to have a week off now, or almost basically the midweek off. So a lot of your Liverpool guys, I'd expect good minutes against West Ham. A lot of your, your Arsenal guys, they will have a nice break until Wednesday, and then they will play. Who are some of the other minutes risks guys? Like even Chelsea will play Ipswich, and then they play Palace until the weekend. So there's not necessarily a need for any rotation this on game week 19. But you never know. Like, people, this is the third of a series of games that they had, because the previous game week was only a few days before. So there could be some rotation in game week 19, but from game week 20, we enter a period of back to normality. And so actually after game week 20, there's a little bit of a break. There's the Carabao Cup semi-final and the FA Cup third round. This is actually very important, the Carabao Cup semi-final, because as you know, Newcastle are playing Arsenal, and this is a two-legged semi-final. But in the first leg, you can make much better predictions based on the outcome, because Newcastle is away to Arsenal, for example. If Arsenal win, if they win very comfortably, let's say 2-3-0, then you can make guesses about game week 29, because the finalist of the Carabao Cup, this is actually the next slide. So, the finalists for the the Carabao Cup will basically blank in game week 29. So who are the finalists? It's either Arsenal, it's Liverpool, it's Newcastle, or it is... Who's the other one? Is it Palace? I should know this. Hold on. It's Liverpool. Spurs, of course. Forgot about Spurs. So it's basically one of those four teams. Two of those four teams. So if Arsenal are the ones in the FA Cup final, Carabao Cup final, sorry, then it'll be Arsenal-Chelsea, which will be a blank. And on the other side, if Liverpool beats Spurs, then it'll be Villa and Liverpool that will blank. So this is very important, because we have a lot of players from these teams, and not only that, we're looking to buy more players from these teams. So for example, people thinking of buying Crystal Palace players this week, who already have Isak, who already have double, triple Arsenal, who already have double Chelsea, it's getting into dangerous category. But then you can also think about it as, if you already have an Isak, and if you're buying a Jackson, then you're basically guaranteeing yourself somebody playing in game week 29. So this is basically, it needs to start to play into our thinking. It is 10 game weeks away. So it doesn't need to shape your decisions completely right now, but it's something to keep at the back of our minds, that there is a blank coming. For all we know, maybe free hit is the more optimal use of the chip at this stage. I think we will know a lot more about it. Because of, coming back to this, because of knowing who is actually in the in the Carabao Cup final, or at least take guesses after game week 20. And then you have the FA Cup round 3 as well, which is between game week 20 and game week 21. And in the FA Cup third round, FA Cup fourth round, even the FA Cup quarterfinal, there are no blanks caused this year. The only blanks that will be caused are the people who make the semi-final of the FA Cup. But you could still get clues. For example, Arsenal is playing Man United. So if you basically have a scenario where Man United beat Arsenal, no bias, I'm just using an example, then you would basically know that Arsenal would not have a double and would not have a blank after game week 29, confirmed. So things like that will be figured out very soon. So you will start seeing basically the guys bring out their spreadsheets between 4th of January to basically 14th of January. And that's when a lot of people who are saying, oh, when will you play your assistant manager chip? When will you play your triple captaincy? When will you play your bench boost? A lot of these things will start becoming clearer. So this is the reason why I'll now, every other week, I'll try to just basically give you an update on what is coming up and what should we be thinking about. So that's it on helicopter view and things that are coming up. And by the way, after this, we go back to our midweek schedules and the European competitions and stuff like that, which is why, in a way, I don't mind this whole schedule for, you don't mind picking up some, I don't want to presuppose this, but even a Chelsea player somebody like a Jackson or a winger that is getting more nailed, because then they get back to their A team, B team type concept. So carrying on, coming to this week now, we already did this on the pod yesterday in terms of what are the projected goals and clean sheet odds. But essentially, Liverpool, Spurs, Chelsea, Man City, Arsenal, top 5 teams have top 5 odds for goal score. All have great fixtures this week. I think even Spurs are unpredictable, but home to Wolves, fantastic fixture. Liverpool, I'm actually surprised that Liverpool and Man City are similar, even though Man City have the way easier fixture. Obviously, the markets have figured out what's going on with Man City, and they can't be backed. I mean, otherwise this should have been a 3+, a bit like the Ipswich and the Southampton games that they had in the past. But that's where we are. Arsenal are above 2, so not too bad, but below basically the other 4. And then Crystal Palace, even though it's home to Southampton, they're under 2. So this is why people suggesting let's go Mateta, Eze, Sarr. We have to be balanced. Like, they're still a team that is not yet shown us the same attacking output. Similarly, Newcastle away to Man United, people will say, okay, they're going to get thrashed without Ugarte and Bruno. These odds take that into account, and yet it's about 1.6. So it's fine. They could still do well, but it's not exceptional. Clean sheet odds, I think now this is where it becomes interesting, because Crystal Palace are number 1, because the one thing we've learned from the new manager from Southampton is they're a lot more organized, and so they're a little bit defense first. So defensive clean sheet odds are best for Crystal Palace, even though 38% isn't world beating. So we're now having these weeks where one week is great because all the big teams are home, one week is away because or bad because all the big teams are away. But that's just the pattern that we're in. But still, I think Crystal Palace is going to break that, because Southampton at home is a very good fixture. Man City away to Leicester, second highest clean sheet odds, but I don't know, man. Like, even I'm becoming a non-believer. So I don't know. Arsenal's still nice. So even though Brentford do score a lot at home, I think Arsenal still being second best for clean sheet odds is a nice sign. Chelsea is good, Ipswich away, and then Liverpool is the 5th. So best teams have best goal scoring odds and best clean sheet odds. Who would have thought? So then player projections. So we have this in time this week. Thank you to Rob T. And Haaland is number 1 out and out. But in terms of expected points, I think it is very, very close between Salah, Palmer and Haaland. I don't think there's much to split it at all, because you have here Haaland at the top with the highest projected goals, but he only gets 4 points for a goal. Also, his assist threat is lower. You have Salah number 2, but then he gets more points than Haaland for a goal, but his assist threat is lower than a Palmer. At least the markets think so, or the models think so. So all in all, Palmer with a lower goal share but a higher assist share makes all the 3 options absolutely similar. So what I would say here is it depends on your risk appetite. If you're a Haaland owner, if I was a Haaland owner, I would be captaining him. I think Lateriser is doing that. He'll have his team selection video tomorrow. You got to back him for Leicester away. I mean, if there's 1 week you do it, and then after that, if it goes wrong, it goes wrong. Between Salah and Palmer, it's a complete risk appetite question. Do you want to be watching the Liverpool game, as a non-Salah, because Salah will be 170, 180% as usual. Palmer will be maybe 90%. So if you captain Salah, you can not gain from Salah and not gain from Palmer. If you captain Palmer, you gain huge from Palmer, but you lose huge from Salah. So it's again a risk appetite question. To put it in a very simple way, if you're happy with your rank, if you're happy with where you are, if you want to play it safer, if you don't want to be screwed by Salah, captain Salah. If you want to chase, if you want to gamble, and if you want to see that maybe I get lucky with Palmer, Salah gets a 2-pointer, Palmer gets a 15-pointer. Now, in reality, they both probably get a return, but we know that's not how it works in actual real life. There is variance. So you're basically trying to tap into variance. So if you want to do that, your call. I'm happy with my rank, so I'll be captaining Salah. It's a very simple way to think about it. Maybe not everybody looks at EO, not looks at ownership, looks at expected points. I'm only doing that because they're almost the same expected points. That's when you need to start looking at other things. Maybe other people prefer looking at weather, or how the opposition players are doing, and which zones they play through. Whatever your style is, do that. For me, it's nothing to split between the two players. So then coming to my team. So I have not made any transfers. I have 2 free transfers, but I'm going to make one tonight. So here is where I am. Raya and Gabriel not going anywhere. Trent not going anywhere. Rico Lewis will be going somewhere. To Daniel Munoz, I've said it many, many times. Then I have Palmer not going anywhere. This should say Rogers. Unfortunately, Saka is gone. So then I have Salah, captain. And then Enzo away to Ipswich. Cunha away to Tottenham. Isak away to Man United. João Pedro away to Villa. So idea is that I'll be benching Bruno because if Bruno was, let's say, available home to Newcastle, I would probably have a benching dilemma anyway. Who would I bench here? Like maybe Enzo, maybe João Pedro, maybe Rogers. But it's not so clear. So I don't mind keeping Bruno and just basically removing the benching headache this week. Why am I not playing Robinson? Well, clean sheet odds for where are Fulham? 24%. So if I can get access to Arsenal, Liverpool and Mateta, I think I'm okay with that. So Robinson could do well home to Bournemouth. And if you're in a position where you're forced to play a Fulham defender, no problem. Fulham are absolutely smashing it. But because I feel long-term, I want to get a Palace defender. I like the rotation between him and Robinson and potentially even Gabriel in some weeks. Then I don't mind it. So that's why here is where we are. Basically, you remember I've done this chart before. This chart has basically been updated because I did this chart is earlier looking at replacements when I held Saka. So the options were all a little bit cheaper in each of those price brackets. But it's not fundamentally changed. So option number 1 is basically all of them have Munoz, and Munoz will come into my team tomorrow. I'll wait to see if Rico Lewis starts. I think I will do it anyway because Munoz's upside is just huge this week. He's the highest XG defender. You know what? I will do it. So Rico Lewis, regardless of his start, I will do the Rico Lewis to Munoz move. Then it's the question of how do you sequence the next moves? Coming back to my team, Cunha doesn't leave this week, right? There's no point selling him away to Spurs. You've seen people who sold him haven't been that happy. The ban could come anytime, but until it comes, why sell him? So then the question is, what do you do with the Enzo spot? And why am I selling Enzo instead of Rogers? There's no recency bias. It's simply that Enzo had 3-4 good fixtures. I played him for 2 of those 3 fixtures. He got 1 return. He's okay. He's done his job. Now Rogers has 2 very, very... In fact, Rogers has good fixtures for the next 5-6 weeks, apart from just 1 in the middle. This is why people are looking at Watkins. And especially when Duran is also out, I think it only improves Rogers' minutes, right? Rogers is already a 70, 80 minute player. But now if there's nobody to take, Watkins off, maybe McGinn comes off first. Leon Bailey may play. He may come off. So I think with all of that, Rogers is good. So Enzo goes. So option number 1 is Enzo goes for Sarr. And then eventually, whenever Cunha is banned, Jackson comes in. Why I like this is because I don't want to get in Jackson this week. There is slight threat of rotation. Like I said, with the rest times, maybe that doesn't happen. But maybe there's also a slight threat of getting a 5th yellow card. So why worry about that this week and just let Jackson play? And then once he's played, he's through. The rotation is done or the fixture crunch is done. The 19 yellow thing is done. Get Jackson whenever Cunha is banned. So it's a nice entry point for Sarr, getting him Southampton at home, and it's a nice entry point for Jackson. So I like option A. Option B is basically you get Gordon this week for Enzo, and then in the future you get Mateta or Jesus. So while I like Mateta and Gordon as options, I think if my sequence was the reversed, where let's say Enzo was about to be banned and Cunha has become a bad option, I would go with option B because Mateta entry point is now. And Gordon, ideally, the entry point is in a week or 2. Now, again, you may say Man United, rubbish at home. It'll be 3 goals. Newcastle are flying. Fair enough, if that's your view. I still think if you look at the goal scoring odds, it's not the best window to get a Gordon. Again, Newcastle away. All those factors take into account. Like this week, if it was a free hit, I'd probably be tempted by a Palace mid more than a Newcastle mid. Maybe you have both, if that's your choice. But that's what I'm saying. So entry point for Mateta is better this week, but I don't want to sell Cunha this week. With Jesus, I did watch him very closely. He was involved. He had that close, I think, VAR ruled out goal. The one thing I didn't like about him is he came off. He came off for when they brought Merino on. What does that tell me? It means that whenever they will play 2 holding midfielders, which is Merino and Jorginho, could be Merino and Partey, could be Merino and Rice, then basically Odegaard will play that role, the attacking mid role. Havertz went up top. Martinelli and Trossard stayed on the pitch. So that tells me that there could be games where Jesus is not the one who starts, or his minutes will continue to be an issue. Maybe it's wrong. It's just one game sample size. It could be game state, but I didn't love. So I don't need to jump into a Jesus and say I want to be the first one there. I could still get there. I could, in option B, I could go Mateta or Jesus later. Option C is basically going for Eze and Solanke. Now this is FPL review recommended path, which is basically get the penalty taker. Maybe Eze is not even on penalties, right? Mateta took the last one when they were both on the pitch. Get the guy who's on set pieces. Again, he takes some, but Hughes has also started to take some corners off him. So it's like maybe takes pens and takes some set pieces, and get the Solanke guy who plays 90 minutes, who's playing for Spurs, they're an attacking team, or even have an option to play Havertz. I've considered it. I've thought about it. I probably will not do it. And then you have the last one. Again, another good analytics, sensible, long-term pick in Mbumo and getting Wood, which is basically the option of getting two more penalty takers who have good minutes and not so good fixtures. So I have ruled out D because the fixtures aren't great. Mbumo plays City, Liverpool and Arsenal at home, but in 3 of the next 4. Not sure I'm a fan. And then Chris Wood also has bad longer term fixtures. They're decent in the short term, but longer term not so great. So I feel like they will, I already have Bruno as one sensible pick. I don't want to add 2 more and then basically not do anything with my team. So basically, very, very long story short, where I have landed is option A. So I will do Enzo to Sarr and I'll do Rico Lewis to Munoz this week, giving me 2 players home to Southampton with good fixtures. Now, 4 out of the next 5 fixtures are fantastic for Crystal Palace, and then leaves me enough money in the bank to get Jackson for Cunha whenever that ban comes. Because I do think with the issues we have up front, there is no standout option. And one thing that I did like about Jackson is, by the way, this will be music to Jackson owners' ears, is like I didn't, the fact that Chelsea conceded 2 goals after he went off basically tells you that he's so essential to that team that Maresca won't be making that mistake too many times in the league. So, he keeps saying Nkunku is not a 9, João Felix is not a 9. There is no number 9. So I think, that's only good for his minutes. And so essentially, I'm happy to have him. I can see some people getting frustrated with him, but I'm happy to pick him up if people have lost patience. He's a good pick. If his minutes are decent, 70, 80 minutes, I think he's probably the second best striker to get. Now, the other good thing about going down this path is I'm not making the Jackson move now, right? So if, let's say, Havertz looks really good and he's playing central striker, he even takes a pen in the next game, or Mateta scores a brace and you go, oh, man, I should have gotten Mateta. I'm still not committing to the striker, and I have all the funds in the world. Because I've left enough money for Jackson, I can pretty much get anyone else. So I can change my path if there's an injury or whatever. So I'm going for basically like for like, leaving a lot of money in the bank, and then we'll go from there. So hopefully that made sense. I think I kept it to 25 minutes, so that's not too bad. So just to summarize, it will be Rico Lewis to Munoz. But the move I will do tonight is Enzo to Sarr. Rico Lewis to Munoz will happen tomorrow morning because Munoz is price locked anyway. And then we take it from there. I wish you all the best. And I don't think we'll pod before the new year. So wish you a very, very happy new year. And the last game week of 2024, I hope you all get green arrows. Well, you all can't, but the ones that are listening get green arrows. Take care.